Okay, we are supposedly recording. Welcome to Zoom Talk. This series, which will run over 3 evenings, will cover the settings in both the free basic license of Zoom and in the pro license of Zoom. We're going to start with the free license. The items marked in green and say on are those that are on by default when you get your free license. Everything else is turned on. Now, before you schedule a meeting or learn how to start a meeting or learn how to hold a meeting, you need to know what your default settings are, what they do, and why they are set the way they are. You have complete control over how you set these things up, but this is the default. You can't make an intelligent choice to change it or not until you know what you want to change it to and how that change is going to affect other things. Some of these are mutually exclusive. Some can be used in combination with others. So we're going to get right into it. The very first choice is your host video. If you're hosting a meeting, how do you want your video? Do you want to come in? Do you want to come in with it turned on? Or do you want to come in with your camera off in case you're not ready to be seen on screen yet? The choice is entirely yours, but there are consequences to each choice. If you come in with your video fully on and you're not ready, you may present a less than professional appearance. If you come in with your video off, you may get flustered, particularly if it's the first time or second time you've done something, and forget to turn your video on, in which case your audience is going to miss seeing you and whatever you are presenting. The other choice you get to make is the participants in your meeting. Do you want them coming in with their video on and off or off? So you make sure that they have a chance to be presentable as well. If you fix it so that they join, when they join, their audio, the video is on, they may not be ready for that. I suggest giving them the choice. Have your participants come in with their video off. That way, when they get ready, they've got their headsets in place and the whole 9 yards. When they're ready to appear, then they can turn their video on. That's the way I handle most of my stuff. The next one is the audio types and how you want your participants to join the audio. They can join by telephone, they can join by computer audio, or they can join with telephone and audio. Give them the choice to join either way they want. Unless there's a compelling reason to have one or the other, I suggest both. That way, whatever suits them best works best for them, and that's what you want. You want your participants to be comfortable. You want them, to not have to do a lot of fiddling. If you give them the choice, that's their choice. They'll know which choice is best for them. There's no way you can know that ahead of time. Okay? The next setting is joining before the host. Will you allow your participants into your meeting room before you are there? That greatly depends on who those participants are going to be, how well you trust them. Normally, it is a good practice to have them come in and wait in the waiting room. They can be getting ready with their headsets and whatnot. You can be getting ready with yours. And then when you're ready and you start your audio, then you can start bringing them in to the room. I've got, of course, my 12-hour room. And the only way for me to make that thing really work is to allow participants to come in ahead of time. Anybody can come in with the link, can come in with anybody else, and they can talk and do things while I'm not there. That is a specific use case for that. were I to open up a general meeting, and I'm not going to know who the participants were, I'd either make it to where they waited in the waiting room until I admitted them, or I would make it where registration was required so I know who is coming in at a time. But we'll get to that later. Now, the next one, require a password for personal meetings if attendees can join before host. That's important because if you've got a certain number of people that you want to allow them to come in before the host, you can give them the password to actually come in. And yet other people can have the link, but because they don't have the password, they still can't come in, even though you've got it joined before host. It's like, yeah, they can join before the host, but they've got to unlock the door and walk in. That the door is not going to be unlocked for everybody. It's a neat setting, and you may or may not want to make use of it, depending upon your particular work, use case. And that's one thing. Each one of these can be custom built to handle almost any use case. It just depends on exactly what your use case is. If you've got a use case and you want to ask questions about how you should handle something, we'll be more than happy to give you our advice. The next one is generate and require a password for participants joining by phone. That's good because that means if you've got somebody coming in by phone and you've given them the password in their invitation, that means nobody else can call in, even though they've got the phone number to call in. Same thing, they call in, there's no password for them, so they can't misuse it. Mute participants automatically. That I would strongly recommend all participants be muted. And they can always unmute themselves unless you choose to make, there's another setting if you choose not to allow them to unmute themselves. But mute participants automatically is good. That way, if they come in, you're in the middle of a presentation, you don't hear them putting on their headphones, you don't hear them typing on the keyboard, you don't hear them opening and closing desk drawers, or yelling at their children, or telling the dog to be quiet. And then when things are quiet and steady, they can unmute themselves if you allow it. Calendar integration. This is good. You can send the invitation out. It allows you to integrate it on your Google Calendar or on your Outlook calendar if you have downloaded the extensions to go into Outlook and Chrome. End-to-end encryption. Best way to send messages in the chat and everything is end-to-end encryption. However, if you do this, there is another setting that prevents you from activating that setting. It is mutually exclusive to end-to-end encryption, and we will get to that in a bit. Chat is enabled from the start, as is private chat. You may or may not want to allow your attendees and participants to chat among themselves. You may not even want to enable chat so that everything is done through video. If that's what your choice is, then hopefully the people are well trained enough not to turn on their mics and talk over each other and everything. If you want to be sure that they are paying attention to you and not chatting among themselves, you simply disable private chat. That means all chat goes, everybody can see everything. And that will tend to cut down on the chit chat. How are you? What did you have for lunch last week? It get off, people not paying attention to your meeting and your presentation. Auto-saving chats. This is a big thing because every other program that I know of, with the exception of one, you have to copy and paste the chats in order to save them. This way, if you enable that, the minute you close the meeting, it generates a chat text file that you get along with the recording of the meeting and the audio record of the meeting. You get a video and an audio and a text file if you have enabled automatic saving of chat. Next one is the play sound when participants join or leave. You've got two choices. You can fix it so that both the host and all the attendees hear it, or you can fix it with just the host. Personal preference, and it may, no matter what choice you make, it may make some of your participants, it's not going to satisfy them. Some participants will want to hear the chime when somebody new comes in, particularly in large meetings that say go over 25, because then you know somebody's come in on the second screen and everything. Other participants don't want to hear all that chiming going on, particularly if it's active and people going in and out all the time. I like to hear the chat. I mean, hear the gong, whether I'm a participant or a host. It alerts me that there are new people there, and I probably should watch out for them in case they are newbies and I can help them or whatever. But that's just, that, like I say, that's personal preference. And then when each host joins by telephone, you can enable or not the sound to play, and you can allow them to record and play their own voices when they join by telephone. File transfer, that allows you to transfer files by putting them into the chat, and other people can download them and open them right then. I think you get, the file can be as much as 512 meg if memory serves. Feedback to Zoom, that's on by default. When the meeting's over, you get a chance to automatically leave feedback for Zoom as to what your experience was like. Display end of meeting experience feedback survey. When the meeting's over, it will automatically take your participants to a survey link that you can set up, and they complete the survey there. You have to enable co-hosts. Co-hosts are a great thing, particularly if you have breakout rooms in your meetings and you want those breakout rooms recorded. Breakout rooms are not recorded in the main recording. Any co-host that's in the breakout room recording it for you will then have to send you the video file for you to edit back into the main recording wherever you want it. Polling is allowed. All you've got to do is enable it. Now, that's your choice. Again, personal choice. Allow hosts to put attendees on hold. That way, if I've got an attendee, let's say 3 of us are talking and 2 of us are going to have a private conversation, we can say, excuse us for a minute, put the third party on hold, and it's like it goes not into a waiting room exactly or into a break room, although you could put them into their break room, but they could always choose to come back into the main meeting session, unless you put him in one break room and you put you and the other party into a second break room and leave nobody in the main meeting. But we can go into details as we discuss that later. Always show meeting control bar. That keeps the control bar from auto hiding. It always stays like on top, so you've always got your control handies. I recommend it for hosts. Allow to share Zoom windows in desktop sharing. So if I go and share my desktop and then share a Zoom window, it can show in there where normally if you share a desktop, it won't show the actual Zoom windows. And then you've got annotation that can be done on a shared screen. If you allow this, then anybody can annotate on any shared screen. Anybody can annotate on any whiteboard. You'll notice that these are all on by default. The nonverbal feedback is a cool little thing. You click on your participants, it'll bring up a series like a coffee cup means you've gone for coffee, thumbs up or thumbs down, or a thing to indicate the host needs to go a little faster, or you'd appreciate if the host would slow down a little bit, or if somebody does not have the Zoom thing as the main focus window on their computer or whatever, you get at 30 seconds, you get a little clock by the person's name, so you know that they are doing something else. It may be doing email, it may be taking notes. It's not necessarily that they're not paying attention to the presentation. It's just that they don't have the presentation as the active window. Remote control. If I remember correctly, that is the one that is excluded if you do encryption end to end. You cannot do encryption and remote control at the same time. Closed caption, you can allow it to go to a third party to be transcribed. You can appoint somebody in the meeting to do the transcription. Of course, now if they're busy transcribing, they're not going to be paying attention to what's actually going on. They're only going to be listening to words and typing, not necessarily thinking about what the words say. So you might want to consider that there is a way to get a transcription. That is, if you record to your local computer or to the Zoom cloud, then upload that same video to your YouTube channel. YouTube will do the transcribing for you. Of course, if you do it to the Zoom cloud, you've then got to download it back to your computer and upload from there. There is no way to put it on YouTube directly from the Zoom cloud. Far-end camera control lets somebody else, like if I'm presenting, but I want to give control of my camera to somebody else, I would enable that. Group HD video, it improves the group video, but it does take more bandwidth to do it. So you, depending on how much resources you've got, you may or may not want to use it. Virtual backgrounds. If you've got a green screen, go for it. You can put any picture you want up on a virtual background. You have to enable this, like all these other, you have to enable it before the meeting starts. Once the meeting starts, you cannot change them and it affect the meeting that you're in. It will take effect from the next meeting forward. So if you have different use cases, you want to always record what your default settings for that use case should be. That's the reason I have worked up this spreadsheet, which I will be sharing with people. And you just add a new tab for each use case and mark which should be on and off for each, because there is no way to reset the Zoom software back to its original settings. I'm hoping that they will change that. In fact, I'm hoping they bring the template function from webinars down to the Zoom meeting things. It would make it so much easier, but this way, at least, if you've got, you know, all the settings, you've got different use cases, you can mark them. So you just go up to whichever tab and then you go to your meeting, actual meeting settings in your Zoom and make sure that they're set for that before you start the meeting. Okay, where are we? Identifying guest participants in the meeting webinar. If you've got somebody who is not part of your organization join you in the webinar, it will identify that guest as not belonging to your organization, to the organization members. The guest himself will not see himself marked as not belonging to the organization. Auto answer group in chat. If they're a member of your organization, you can auto answer in chat. I mean, those questions, if they're asking, they automatically will get answered by somebody, either the host or a co-host or somebody. They actually are given precedence from my understanding. I won't know that for a fact because we won't start playing with webinars until June, because that's when I intend to get the webinar module. Only show default email when sending email invites. That means that when you send an invite, you get the choice of only your default email. If you've got several emails on the system, like I can send through Yahoo, I can send through email, I can send through Outlook. I've also got an email thing with a private organization that I can use. But if I've got the default email, I can fix it so that when I go to send the invitations, it doesn't pull all my choices up. It just pulls up what I consider my default email. Use HTML format email for Outlook plugin. It allows HTML in email and Outlook. What can I say? Share dual cameras. If you've got more than one camera, you can actually share dual cameras. Like when I go to screen share, I can immediately, one of the things I can screen share is another camera if I have this enabled. And then you get into the, you can allow the users to select the original or stereo. Screen sharing is on by default. We'll go into that. Remember, we are not showing you what these things do presently. We are just showing you what the defaults are and what they can be for different use cases. Now, at the end of this, I will show a way of following along and doing this at the same time. But right now, we're just concentrating on all the meeting defaults. Okay, and then there's a waiting room. You have to enable that if you're not going to have join before host. And join before host and waiting room are one of the sets of mutually exclusive meeting settings. You can't have both. It's either one or the other. Here, join from a browser link. That is for those times where you may work for an organization or that doesn't allow you to install certain software onto your computer. You can join a Zoom meeting from a browser link. However, it is of limited functionality. You don't get all the bells and whistles that you do if you're in a regular meeting. But I have not determined exactly what bells and whistles are missing from that yet. Okay. Then you have, well, let's just stop right there. We'll stop the screen share. That covers the first, what, 50 or so. That means there's some left. We'll do a second video. So we're going to stop the screen sharing. And this is the sample video for what we intend to do. Thank you for watching. I'm going to stop the recording.